Okay. Hare Krishna. Thank you, everyone, for coming. Both those who are here and those who are out on the social media watching. Okay, so this is our week number 6 of an 8-week course on the subject of Vaishnava etiquette. Today we are beginning the section on sadhana bhakti, specifically is a part on japa, chanting japa. So if you're looking in the book, it's on page 61. So in the practice of Krishna consciousness, one has to accept and follow sincerely several regulative principles, both negative and positive. Srila Rupa Goswami has listed 64 such regulative principles, 5 of which are considered most important. Those 5 are worshiping the deity, hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam, association with devotees of the Lord, chanting the holy names, and residing in the holy dham or worshiping Tulasi Devi. So especially we're talking about chanting japa, chanting on our beads for tonight. Chanting the holy name of the Lord is the single most important activity in the life of a devotee. Chanting japa is an essential process given by all the great acharyas for the purification of the heart. It is the first vow that a devotee takes before the spiritual master at the time of Diksha. Therefore, chanting at least the prescribed 16 rounds of the Hare Krishna mantra daily without fail is an absolute must for every serious devotee. So, chanting our beads on our beads daily is our most important activity. Srila Prabhupada says that 99% of our spiritual advancement comes from the chanting of the holy name. Thus, a devotee who sincerely and regularly chants at least 16 rounds every day, avoiding offenses, will make quick progress in Krishna consciousness. Give me a second. Slides are a little slow to change. Okay. When we attach importance to some activity, we keep aside some time exclusively for that activity. Similarly, every devotee must spend the time required for chanting his or her prescribed rounds exclusively for japa and for no other activity, even if it is some form of devotional service. So, that's important. There's always so many things to do, even in devotional service and outside of devotional service. But especially once we've become initiated or are planning to be, it's very important that we chant the rounds, 16 rounds minimum on our beads attentively. For example, while chanting one's 16 rounds, one should not be reading the newspaper or talking to others, or while even listening to kirtans for that matter. Japa is an activity that demands our complete, undivided attention. Sometimes that's hard. It seems like there's never enough time to do everything. But for the purpose of making good spiritual advancement, then our chanting on our beads has to be really focused during that time that we do it, which has 16 rounds a day. It takes about 2 hours, more or less. So that's, for 2 hours out of the day may seem like a big chunk of time, but it's a very, very well placed chunk of time, because our whole spiritual advancement practically depends on that chanting. During japa, telephone calls should not be entertained. The caller may be politely asked to leave a message or to call up later. Even visitors who come in person should be requested to wait. When we chant the holy name, we are in direct communion with the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna, because Lord Krishna is non-different from his name. In the form of his name, Krishna, the most important personality in all creation, is giving us an audience. Therefore, nothing should be allowed to interrupt this holy meeting. So yeah, that's exactly what's going on in japa. Krishna is not different from his name. We chant Krishna's name, Hare Krishna, and Krishna is present in the form of that name. He's actually present there. So when he's present there, we want to give full attention to him in the form of listening carefully to the chanting. Where there is a will, there is a way. Remember that. The foundation of our spiritual life is intense desire. Our strong desire and eagerness to chant the holy name is the most pleasing to Krishna and is the fundamental requirement of good japa. Everything's based on desire. So in Krishna consciousness, nothing is mechanical, or nothing should be taken as just mechanical. Okay, I must just say Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, so many times a day. Okay, we're doing that, but the desire and the eagerness to chant very nicely, that's what actually counts here. That eagerness is very intense. Eagerness is very essential. Strong desire must be manifest in firm determination to chant one's prescribed quota of rounds every day, even in the midst of adverse and trying circumstances, and also in the firm endeavor to improve one's quality of japa. One must, therefore, be determined to make every endeavor to improve the quality of our japa and avoid all activities that can spoil our japa. And how does one increase the intensity of one's desire and determination? By the process of Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya, regularly serving the devotees and submissively hearing Krishna Katha, especially by regular attendance in the Srimad Bhagavatam class. And this is actually a verse in Srimad Bhagavatam that says that, in the first canto, 2nd chapter, 18th verse. So this is Bhakti Yoga we're practicing. Bhakti Yoga is it's a science. It's a science of Bhakti Yoga. So just like science, outside material science, there's science means that you have some, they call it a theory, and then you want to prove your theory, so you go through certain procedures, and then you find out how things act and react, and then if someone else comes along, just like they say, water, hydrogen, oxygen, you put it together a certain way, electrical charge and whatever, and it becomes, it turns into water, right? So no matter who does it, if they follow the same procedure, it'll get the same result. So the same thing in Krishna consciousness, there's a science. So if one follows the science, chants Hare Krishna in the right mood, in the right attitude, and then in due course of time, then we will become Krishna conscious. We'll become purified by this endeavor. And one of the important things, even for helping us to chant japa good, well, is hearing regularly the Srimad Bhagavatam. I don't have a Srimad Bhagavatam here. It's a class we have in the morning most days. It's a book all about how to become. The whole purpose of Srimad Bhagavatam is why we should engage in devotional service and how we can engage in devotional service. And by that regularly hearing it will also help us to develop that intense desire for chanting Hare Krishna, very good japa. Okay. Our japa is as good as the quality of our hearing. Therefore, attentive hearing is the most important aspect of japa. Srila Prabhupada says, concentrate fully on the sound vibration of the mantra, pronouncing each name distinctly. Do not worry so much about chanting fast. More important is hearing. Again, as you chant, you should try to hear every word very carefully. So, and without attentive hearing, our japa will become mechanical and tasteless. It's a fact. If we were just chanting and thinking, how can I get this out of the way? I have other things to do. Then the chanting will become very difficult because it'll just be mechanical. There won't be any reciprocation between Krishna in the form of his name and ourselves, because we're not chanting in the right mood. So the point is simply to concentrate on the sound vibration. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, again and again and again, like that. What one should do is chant the holy name of the Lord with faith, enthusiasm, and firm conviction on the statement of Lord Chaitanya, as simply by chanting the Maha Mantra, one can be gradually elevated to the highest platform. So spiritual life means there's faith. It's not blind faith. It's not that we just say, okay, you just follow this process and you keep doing it your whole life, and then you're going to become, go to spiritual world, or you go to heaven, and you'll go to, and you'll find out at the end if your faith was well placed. It's not like that. I mean, yes, the end result will be what we're reading about here, but the fact is that as we chant, as we go on the path of devotional service, then we will gradually advance, and as we advance, then we will experience the change, right? We'll experience becoming more Krishna conscious. This is the point here. So we have some faith to start, and as we become more and more Krishna conscious, then of course our faith will increase more and more. And the real difference between a neophyte devotee and a 100% pure devotee is the degree of faith. Just like as we talk about third-class devotees, second-class devotees, first-class devotees, the third class means there's very little faith, just trying to get off the material platform. Second-class devotees, there is a greater amount of faith. Actually, the faith is pretty firm, but not 100%. And then the first-class devotee, someone like Srila Prabhupada, our founder Acharya. For first-class devotee, is 100% faith in the process and in the potency of the holy names. So this is the science that we're following. Srila Prabhupada explains our prayer of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra means addressing Radha and Krishna for being engaged in their service. Hare Krishna means, O Hare, O Radharani, O Krishna, please engage me in your service so that I can get relieved from the service of Maya. So Maya means the material energy, the material energy that's always causing us so much suffering. And Krishna's service will make us very happy because that's our natural constitutional position, is to be engaged in the Lord's transcendental service. So when we chant these words, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. It's actually it's 16 words, but it's only 3 different words. But the real meaning of that chanting and the real mood that we should have when chanting is, please engage me in your Radha and Krishna. Please engage me in your transcendental loving service. This is actually what we're praying for. Since the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra is a prayer, we must, with full understanding of the meaning of the mantra, chant in a prayerful mood. Our chanting must be like the desperate cry of a lost child crying out for its mother. The mood must be one of helplessness and utter dependence on Krishna. So again, the mood in our chanting is very important. We don't want to chant mechanically. I've spent 2 hours going Hare Krishna, and chanting 16 rounds, and if our mood is not proper, the mood should be actually like an intense prayer that please engage me in your transcendental loving service. And then ultimately that service takes us back to the spiritual world, takes us back to the eternal spiritual world, where we will engage 100% of the time in the Lord's service. On our path of devotional service, we are trained to proceed toward the goal of unmotivated, uninterrupted, pure devotional service. Therefore, we should not seek material benefits or facilities for sense enjoyment through our chanting. The only bona fide favor to ask from the Lord is His service, and the ability and opportunity to chant His holy name always. So, if we pure devotional service means that we engage in wanting to serve Krishna, and we specifically don't want, or we don't aspire to get material things like in Hindu culture. There's demigod worship and so on, that worship demigods for maybe being elevated to the heavenly planets, or for getting some kind of material gain of some sort. So we don't do that, and there's also no impersonal type philosophical speculation. That means Krishna is a person. He's a supreme personality of Godhead. So he's a supreme person. So So when we want to engage in devotional service, we should always remember Krishna as the supreme personality of Godhead, and we should not want karma, which means material, gain, and we should not want to have some idea like I want to merge into the Brahma Jyoti, I want to merge into the effulgence of the Supreme Lord, because that is also not, our chanting will not be effective like that. So pure devotional service means doing what Krishna wants, and then putting aside any other activity which will be for increasing our sense gratification or our personal relationship with the Lord. This is what we are aspiring for, and this is the mood that we should try to chant in. Srila Prabhupada says that we should pray to Krishna as follows: "My dear Krishna, please do not put me into forgetfulness. Even if you send me to hell, it doesn't matter, as long as I can always chant Hare Krishna." You see the mentality that we should try to develop. The main thing is to not forget Krishna. In the lower species of life, animals and plants and so on, there's no question of thinking about Krishna. And for most people, at any one time, most human beings, the tendency is to not think about God so much, because the general tendency in the material world is to do so many things for the purpose of sense gratification, material enjoyment. But the devotee should be praying that, okay, I don't want these other things. I don't want to forget you, Krishna. So please, do not put me into a forgetful situation where I'm forgetting about you or forgetting about your devotional service. He says, even if you send me to hell, so even if you're in a very bad material situation, still the devotee wants to always remember Krishna. The devotee always wants to remember Krishna. Now, on the subject of humility, Lord Chaitanya, or for those who don't know, maybe, Lord Chaitanya is Krishna himself. That's Krishna in his original form, and that's Lord Chaitanya in front of the Rath Yatra cart over there, dancing. So Lord Chaitanya is a Supreme Lord himself, but he appeared in the form of a devotee, in the role of a devotee of the Lord, to show us, to teach us by his personal example how to become Krishna conscious. This is his special mission. So this Lord Chaitanya says in his Shikshashtakam prayers that unless one is more humble than a blade of grass, Trinadapi Sunichena, one cannot chant the holy name always. While humility comes naturally and automatically in the course of one's progress in bhakti, one should also consciously attempt to be humble in all dealings and ways, particularly with devotees. One must guard against false pride and take actions to subdue it the moment it raises its ugly head. Pride in the holy name can never go together. So yes, we have to have a humble attitude. In general, we have to have a humble attitude, and in the chanting, it's not just that we have to have a humble attitude while we're chanting. The idea is that we try to develop that humble attitude in general, and if we're in that mood, then when we're chanting, then the chanting will be much more effective. If we are very proud, I'm chanting so many extra rounds every day. Not that we can chant a lot, many rounds, but if we become proud, puffed up, proud, materially proud, then that is dangerous. We should not be unnecessarily proud like that. I remember when I got initiated, my first initiation back in Gainesville, back in the early days. so there were about 4 or 5 of us who got our initiation. So one devotee who was there, one of the devotees who was there, and when Srila Prabhupada asked, what are the rules and regulations? So we say, okay, rules and regulations are we must chant minimum 16 rounds a day and follow the 4 regular principles. And he stated those regular principles. No eating meat, no illicit sex, no intoxication, no gambling. But anyway, this particular devotee, he was chanting a few more than 16 rounds. So he made a point to tell Srila Prabhupada like that. Well, Srila Prabhupada, we're supposed to chant 16 rounds a day, but I'm chanting 20 rounds a day. And Srila Prabhupada looked at it and says, that is okay. He was feeling proud. Oh, I'm better than everyone else. So I'm chanting 20 rounds a day, and everyone else is just chanting 16. But Srila Prabhupada didn't. He saw the mood, so that's okay. He didn't really encourage it or glorify it. Usually the spiritual master does not glorify the disciple. It usually is instructing and teaching and sometimes chastising the disciple to help them advance on the spiritual path. So in this case, Srila Prabhupada saw some pride there, lack of humility, which was to be expected practically. We were all brand new. So we had that somebody had that attitude, so Srila Prabhupada put it down a little bit. He made his point. Okay. Chanting japa in a suitable environment. One should select an environment that is conducive to good japa. As far as possible in a large city, it should be an isolated, quiet place where there are no distractions. Sitting on one's veranda and chanting japa while watching life pass by on the street, for example, is not a good way of chanting japa. So, it's already hard enough to concentrate on chanting our rounds, to really concentrate. So we don't need to make it harder by sitting out and watching everything going on around us, or watching TV at the time, or being on trying to chant while we're on the phone with somebody, or anything like that. It's just you can't to get the proper effect of chanting. Then that chanting should be done. That chanting should be done in a suitable place where it's quiet and it's peaceful. As far as possible, it's quiet and it's peaceful, and there's no unnecessary distractions around. The mind itself is already a distraction. The mind is always jumping here and there and trying to think about so many different things that are important in our lives. So that's already hard enough. So at least we should try to chant at a time when it's when it's the best time for chanting, the best circumstances that we can find for chanting. That's what we should be doing. Again, many devotees have to travel a long distance by public transport to their place of work. By all means, devotees may chant while commuting, but such chanting should be considered bonus chanting and not part of the prescribed quota of 16 rounds, as the quality of chanting will not be good. Yeah, so if you're in a noisy place, you're going by a bus, or to speak of actually driving and trying to chant, concentrate on your japa while you're trying to concentrate on the road, so you don't get in an accident. It's just not possible to give the sufficient attention to the chanting in that circumstance, or in a car where there's so many other people there and are talking like that. You can't do it. So, but of course we should always chant. There's no special rules and regulations as far as the time we can chant. Chanting is always good, but at least the 16 rounds of the Hare Krishna mantra that we make a vow to chant every day, minimum chanting every day. At least those rounds should be done in the best, most, the way we can be the most, concentrate the best on our chanting. That's important, very important. And when is that time? Well, it varies, but in general, the early morning hours are the best time for chanting. If we get up early, getting up a little extra early, and chant before all the other activities start happening in our lives and in the world around us. There's a period in the morning called Brahma Muhurta. Muhurta refers to a period of a certain period of time. The day is made up of so many muhurtas. This is a Sanskrit term. So the Brahma Muhurta is a particular period of time which occurs about an hour and a half before sunrise. So if we get up early, it means early to bed, early to rise. We can get up early and chant some good japa early before we get involved in all of our other activities, while it's still quiet, while the world outside is quiet. That's the best time, if possible. And if that's not possible, then at least we should try to have a certain regulated time that we can sit down and chant and again concentrate. I know when in the early days, one devotee who was the temple president in a particular temple in ISKCON, he was telling Srila Prabhupada that it's not possible, it's not practical for him as the person in charge. You had to get everyone out on going out to Sankirtan, sell Srila Prabhupada's books, and so many things had to be done in the morning hours. So he said, how can I chant my rounds at this time, right? Because everyone else is chanting, but how could he chant? Because he had to organize everything, get everyone, make sure everyone else is doing their service. So Srila Prabhupada said, no, if in your case, in the case of management like that, it may not be practical to chant exactly during our regular japa time in the temple, but later on, later in the morning after things settle down, then you have your time, and you have your hour, your 2 hours, and you go somewhere and it'll be quiet. Other immediate activities are out of the way, and you concentrate on chanting. So, and that's one thing about chanting. It's not like the sacrifices in times, previous ages like that, where everything had to be done, exactly a certain time, exactly on a certain day, exactly. Everything had to be very, very specifically done in a very specific way. It doesn't really have to be like that as far as chanting Hare Krishna, but because we have for it to be effective, but we do need to try to organize our day so that even though the holy name is always pure, we we need to try to organize our lives and our days so that we can chant our rounds, or 16 rounds, if we're chanting 16 rounds at this point, so that we can concentrate on it. Okay. Now going on, now regarding sitting, standing, and walking while we're chanting. If one is alert in the mind, the sitting posture makes for very good quality of japa. It is recommended that one sit cross-legged with back erect. If you can still sit like that. Leaning one's back against the wall, or slouching one's back, or even resting one's elbows on one's knees or thighs should be avoided, as this induces sleep very quickly. It does. If we're just, like that, trying to rest, pretty soon we'll be falling asleep. It's very difficult to, and if we're really tired, which sometimes happens, we get up early in the morning, sometimes working and doing service until late at night, and if we're I know from personal experience, when I joined the movement, I went from sleeping about 9 hours a night to sleeping 6 hours a night, like just overnight. So that was 3 hours less. So it was a little bit of a shock at first. So in the morning, I was in the temple in Gainesville, and we were chanting japa. I couldn't sit down at all. I had to stand up the entire time. Otherwise, I would immediately fall asleep. In fact, I couldn't sit down for the class either. But this went on for some weeks, and in due course of time, the Lord Krishna arranged and helped in that way, so it became easier. But at that point, in the beginning, even standing up, if I was to lean against the wall, I could have fallen asleep. It's like that. So that's what we're saying here. Don't even standing up. Don't just like lean against the wall or do something that will induce us to become inattentive or maybe actually completely fall asleep. That's the point here. Worse still, being sprawled out in the chair or lying down in bed. These are sure shot ways to fall asleep. Yeah, we cannot chant japa lying in bed. Lying in bed, we're conditioned. Where you lay down in bed, you're going to sleep. That's what it's there for. So if we're lying down or we're sitting in a really, really relaxed position and trying to concentrate on japa, then we will not be able to chant attentively. We'll just fall asleep. If one is feeling very sleepy, or if the mind is exceptionally restless, it is then better to stand or walk for japa. After all, what good is it if the body is still, but the mind is moving fast here and there, or not moving at all? So again, we either keep moving, or we at least keep our mind fixed on Krishna in whatever position we're in. Many devotees prefer to do japa while walking. While this is certainly authorized by the acharyas means the spiritual masters, one should be careful to avoid looking here and there or to get distracted by objects or people along the way. One helpful suggestion is to walk with one's head slightly inclined downwards. So yes, especially if we're tired, we may pace back and forth. Even Srila Prabhupada would have seen him chanting japa, and he was also pacing back and forth. Not that he would fall asleep like we would do, but he would pace back and forth. But the idea is that if we're walking back and forth and our eyes are everywhere, then it becomes again potentially a distraction from concentrating on the chanting of the holy names. When one becomes 100% Krishna conscious, then there's no problem. When one becomes 100% Krishna conscious, he's with Krishna 24 hours a day. There's no question of being distracted from Krishna or his holy name. You have full realization that Krishna is his name. But until then, the tendency is to become distracted. So here it's being recommended that if we are pacing back and forth, like in the temple in the morning, sometimes we pace back and forth, but don't be looking everywhere. Kind of look down a little bit while we're walking, so there's less chance of becoming distracted in our consciousness. One must be vigilant to maintain mental alertness at all times during japa. If one feels sleepy while sitting down, one should immediately stand up or walk. As when the mind wanders, one should immediately drag it back to focus on hearing the holy names. So there's a Bhagavad Gita verse like that too, that from whatever and wherever the mind wanders, one must certainly bring it back under the control of the self. The self means the spirit soul. So if our mind goes all over the place, which it tends to do, that's just the nature of the mind, then we should just pull it back. It's not like if a mind goes off somewhere, we say, no, I'm finished. I can't handle this. My mind went off. My mind is uncontrolled. No, the mind goes away. Then we use the intelligence and say, hey, mind, get back and think about Krishna. This is the process. And if we keep pulling the mind back and keep concentrating on Krishna conscious activities, Krishna conscious chanting the holy names as we're talking about here, then gradually we will get our mind and our intelligence will become stronger, and our focus on Krishna and in Krishna's holy names will be also increased. Oh, so here's the verse I just quoted. Yato nischalati manas chanshalam astiram tastato niyam yaitad atmanyeva vashang nayet. From whatever and wherever the mind wanders due to its flickering and unsteady nature, one must certainly withdraw it and bring it back under the control of the self. Yes. From Bhagavad Gita, chapter 6, verse 26. So this is the principle, this verse, this principle here applies not only with chanting japa. The mind always is going here and there, sometimes for meditating on some kind of material enjoyment, some kind of sense gratification, things that are not favorable for our becoming Krishna conscious. So if the mind goes off somewhere, it's not likely that we give up. We just say, hey, it's off, pull it back. That's what the intelligence does, brings the mind back where it belongs. And if it goes away again, then pull it back. And if it goes away again, then we keep pulling it back. And in time, when we become very Krishna conscious, then the mind will not go away from Krishna at all. But that'll take some time. But the process is to pull it back again and again and again, and keep stay on the path. No. Chanting japa, it's not a race. Chanting japa is not a race. Sometimes it may be tempting to try to beat the clock, to rush through one's japa, to finish 16 rounds in even lesser time than yesterday. This must be avoided. Clear, attentive chanting should always be the emphasis, and one may adjust to a speed that is naturally comfortable, that one is naturally comfortable with. At no cost should the quality of japa be compromised. For many devotees, 16 rounds take a little under 2 hours. For some of us, it takes a little bit more than 2 hours, but it doesn't. But the goal is not to chant fast. If we can chant fast and concentrate, no problem. But if our attempt is, hey, I finished my rounds in 2 hours yesterday, today I'm going to try to do it, and I'll finish in an hour and a half, and then maybe the next day I can finish in 1 hour, and then your chanting sounds like a machine gun, like that. It becomes someone's chanting like that, you can't even understand their chanting, and probably they cannot really understand their chanting either. I've seen devotees who have chanted like that, finished their japa in half the time of anyone else, but in the end, they can't maintain it because they lose the taste because they're actually not concentrating. But if one can chant fast and concentrate, then that's okay. It's just the point here is to be able to concentrate on the chanting. Japa, japa is so important that devotees should regularly discuss the subject and emphasize its importance and share their realizations. So, yeah, it's just like we're doing here. We're discussing the importance of japa. Japa is like in the association of devotees, it's natural you talk about, how to practice Krishna consciousness. And japa is the most important. A lot of things are important, but japa, without japa every day, then it's practically speaking, we can't really advance on the spiritual path. We've got to chant, and we've got to concentrate on that chanting, and have discussions. Sometimes in ISKCON there are seminars, not seminars, but retreats. Japa, we call them japa retreats, where devotees all go somewhere where it's very conducive for chanting and have discussions about the importance of chanting japa, and actually take time and just have nothing else to do except for chanting all day or for a couple of days. So that japa is that, and the discussion of the importance of it is very important. And another, chanting japa is best in the association of devotees. So while japa is an individual spiritual discipline, it is advisable to do in association of devotees. While chanting alone, we may become a little lax, neglectful, or sleepy. In the association of devotees, we are always under scrutiny, and there is always someone to check that we are not spacing out. When devotees chant japa together, it sets up a strong vibration, strong vibrations, and it is wonderful to chant in such an environment. So, again, when I first joined the movement back in 1971, so we had in Gainesville Temple that had just at that time been recently established. There were about 16 devotees living in the temple, in a house, which was the temple. And the rule there was japa time. No one left the temple room. So we had a little room uh, about half the size of our lobby out there, as the size of our temple room at the time. So we had 16 devotees in there, and for 2 hours, from 5 o'clock or so until, for 2 hours, everyone was there. No one was allowed to leave. Of course, you had to go to the bathroom. You did, but you had to be right back. No, definitely no one could go to sleep, go back to sleep. And you stood there, or sat there, and you just chanted. And it got loud because everyone's standing together. You can imagine 16 devotees together in a small room, and everyone's trying to hear their own japa. So it became loud sometimes, but the focus was really good for as far as chanting, because even if your mind started to wander off somewhere, even if you didn't fall asleep, your mind starts to go somewhere, but all you're going to hear is Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And sometimes if those were really tired, like me, you spend part of your japa time jumping up and down to stay awake, but nobody would fall asleep, and nobody would leave, and so it was very potent, which is what we're reading about here. So that was my early experience, which was very good for me. We all come under different circumstances, but when I was there, that was that morning sadhana, that morning japa together and class together, and everything together was very tight. And that was, for me, that was like a really good start of Krishna consciousness. Thus, when possible, devotees should attend the morning japa at the temple. So even if you're living outside, when possible, come to the temple and chant. Alternatively, devotees living in the same locality can meet at a common place as often as possible and chant together. This is highly recommended. So yes, even if you're not in the temple or not near a temple, if you have friends who are devotees, you can get together and chant at some place where you can all be together. And during the back this whole COVID period, when it was kind of like hard to go out and do anything and associate with anyone, the devotees were doing the same thing, but they were not going somewhere. You got on the internet, you had your Facebook, whatever you're using. So others could be there through the internet, and then you sit there or stand there and you chant japa together. Some were doing like that to enhance their chanting. So chanting in the association of others who are chanting is very, very important and very helpful. Now, okay, and the chanting is best done in the early morning. Japa should be done early in the morning, ideally during the Brahma Muhurta period. In that time, if that time is not possible, it should be done at the earliest possible time after that. Rising early is mandatory for all devotees, and there should be no compromise in this regard. It is desirable to have a fixed time for one's morning japa. Discipline about timings is an important element of sadhana bhakti. One should try to finish at least 10 to 12 rounds definitely before leaving the house for work. The more, the better. So I mentioned this earlier, but that there's this morning period called the Brahma Muhurta, an hour and a half before sunrise. This morning period is especially favorable for engaging in spiritual activities. This morning period is especially favorable. as the time goes on, as the day progresses, then and the time when people are out working and so on, when the day progresses, then it becomes more and more difficult to take time to chant. But the morning hours are very, very good for especially for spiritual endeavors. While most of the world, or most of the world in your area, are sleeping, then the atmosphere is very nice for that early morning chanting. So even if one has to go to work, everyone works in one way or another. So if you're going to go to work, try to get up early. Sleep early, and get up early and chant early rounds, as many as possible in the morning before going to work. Japa, and how loud do we chant japa? Oh, yes. Japa may be chanted softly to oneself or chanted aloud. Good japa does not necessarily require that it is loud. What is important is not how loudly we chant, but how attentively we are hearing. While chanting amongst other devotees, we should be sensitive not to disturb their concentration. So, Srila Prabhupada said once, we should chant japa loud enough to hear ourselves and to hear others. Loud enough to hear ourselves and chant, and to hear others. So it's stated somewhere in Vedas that you can even chant in your mind. It's even described you get more spiritual benefit by doing that. But practically speaking, we can't, until we become fully Krishna conscious. And who can just chant in the mind without and really concentrate on that chanting. So generally we chant softly. Srila Prabhupada's example was chanting softly, but and if you can chant louder, but if you're chanting really loud, like screaming loud, and there's others around, then it would probably become a distraction to them. So these things should be considered. But the main thing is that we can concentrate on the chanting. And then one other question. Actually, I had that question, the same question when I joined the movement. One question which is sometimes asked by devotees is whether they can think of Lord Krishna's pastimes while chanting japa. Regarding this point, here is what Srila Prabhupada said, quote, "So you cannot make distinction between listening to the sound and thinking of the pastimes, but the process is to hear, and then Krishna's pastimes, form, qualities, etc., will automatically come to mind." End quote. So that's the point. Yes, to go? Okay. Thank you for saying. So it's not that we chant japa and we are, making a point to try to remember all of Krishna's pastimes, all the stories or histories that we read about in Krishna book. That's not the point. The point is that we should concentrate on hearing the holy names, but the holy names and Krishna are not different. So if we are chanting very purely, or the more purely that we are chanting, the more we are free from the offenses to chanting, then we are, then the more likely it is that Krishna's pastimes and Krishna's form and Krishna's other things about Krishna, characteristics of Krishna, will appear in the mind. It'll happen automatically, but the goal is to concentrate on the chanting. And another place, Srila Prabhupada says, generally, it is the process to simply chant and hear. But if Krishna's Leela comes into remembrance, that is also very good. It shall come automatically, not that you are remembering artificially. Same point I just made. Chanting japa, offenses against the holy name. One should avoid the 10 offenses against the holy name. Srila Prabhupada says that quality chanting means to avoid the 10 offenses. Also, one should not forget to chant the Guru Pranam mantra and the Panchatattva mantra before beginning to chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Okay, so every morning we're reciting the 10 offenses against the chanting of the holy names, those 10 offenses mean for the chanting to be effective, we need to make a serious endeavor to chant the holy names. For those offenses to chant effectively, that we need to be really try to avoid the 10 offenses as far as possible. And Srila Prabhupada also taught us that before beginning our japa, we chant the Guru Pranam mantra. That means, for Srila Prabhupada, Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namani Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Prakshani Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Pasyadhyadesha Tarani. And then you can chant also your own Guru's Pranam mantra, whatever that may be. And then of course the Panchatattva mantra, which we'll discuss, I think, just a little bit of that, because I see it's getting late now. But the Panchatattva Maha Mantra means Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasati Gaur Bhaktavrinda. And we'll discuss in a moment why that is so important. And to read about the significance of the Panchatattva Maha Mantra, click on the link below, which is actually not even a link here. Anyway, we'll read this. It's on page 76. It's appendix number 8. That tells about the Panchatattva mantra, and the next page is the 10 offenses against the holy name, which let me just read through this. You can read it as you're going there, and then we'll open up for questions. Actually, significance of the Panchatattva mantra. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasati Gaur Bhaktavrinda. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is always accompanied by his plenary expansion, Shri Nityananda Prabhu, his incarnation, Shri Advaita Prabhu, his internal potency, Shri Gadadhar Prabhu, and his marginal potency, Srivas Prabhu. He is in the midst of them as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One should know that Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is always accompanied by these other tattvas. Therefore, our obeisances to Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu are complete when we say Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasati Gaur Bhaktavrinda. As preachers of the Krishna consciousness movement, we first offer our obeisances to Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu by chanting the Panchatattva mantra, and then we say, after we chant the Panchatattva Maha Mantra, we chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. There are 10 offenses to the chanting of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, but these are not considered in the chanting of the Panchatattva mantra, namely Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasati Gaur Bhaktavrinda. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is known as the Mahavadanyaya Avatar, the most magnanimous incarnation, for he does not consider the offenses of the fallen souls. Thus, to derive the full benefits of the chanting of the Mahamantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, we must first take shelter of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, learn the Panchatattva mantra, and then chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. That will be most effective. Okay? And then, although we all know these, the next page, Appendix 9, I'll just read through the offenses, and then we'll open up for questions. I was hoping to go a little bit more into the 10 offenses, but it's running late. 10 offenses against the holy name. 1, to blaspheme the devotees who have dedicated their lives for propagating the holy name of the Lord. 2, to consider the names of the demigods like Lord Shiva or Lord Brahma to be equal to or independent of the name of Lord Vishnu. 3, to disobey the orders of the spiritual master. 4, to blaspheme the Vedic literature or literature in pursuance of the Vedic version. 5, to consider the glories of chanting Hare Krishna to be imagination. 6, the offense is not to consider the chanting of Hare Krishna to be imagination, it's to consider the glories of chanting Hare Krishna to be imagination. 6, to give some interpretation on the holy name of the Lord. 7, to commit sinful activities on the strength of the holy name of the Lord. 8, consider the chanting of Hare Krishna as one of the auspicious ritualistic activities which are offered in the Vedas as fruit of activities, karma kanda. 9, to instruct a faithless person about the glories of the holy name. And 10, to not have complete faith in the chanting of the holy name and to maintain material attachments even after understanding so many instructions on this matter. It is also an offense to be inattentive while chanting. Every devotee who claims to be a Vaishnava must guard against these offenses in order to quickly achieve the desired success. Krishna Prema. You came for the last artik, right? And actually, I'm sorry, our website is probably not updated, but we don't have it. Only on Sundays we have that last artik at 8:15. No, only on Sundays right now, and festival days. Sorry. It's not proper.
No.
Yeah. It's not. When we close the curtains, we're dressing the deities. So, but we come on Sunday or maybe a little bit earlier. We have an artik at 6:30 every night, though. But thank you for coming. So, hold on a second. Let me. So, are there any questions? Please.
Okay, I have a first question at the beginning. My first question is when you chant, when I chant, sometimes when I chant in heavy meditation, I had a chanting from within, from inside. I had a chanting, and sometimes I don't. So that is when it's not like the chanting is not pure. That's when it's not very.
If you're not hearing it, the question is if you're not hearing the chanting in your mind while you're chanting while you're speaking chanting.
You could have it inside.
Yeah.
You could have it chanting. If you chant pure, you could have that sound.
Mm-hmm.
Out of the spiritual responding. But sometimes you don't have it.
Yes, Yeah, it's natural. Sometimes we're chanting. Sometimes, which means the mind is actually wandering. So what do? The mind wanders away. The mind wanders away. Then you bring it back under the control of the self, the soul.
Right.
So it'll happen. It'll happen probably a lot. But every time it goes away, and we see that we're not really concentrating on that chanting, then we pull the mind back and keep try again and again and again like that.
Rush. Like I wake up early in the morning at 2. Now sometimes because I work, I work at some I wake up late, like this morning because I wake up after 5. So when I wake up, because usually when I wake up, I do a little sadhana, a little service to the altar,
Mm.
not a big thing, just a little movement, worship this and and then do a little incense.
Okay, hold on one second, because for those who are so for those who are watching from through Facebook or YouTube like that, I don't know if you can hear what's going on, but one devotee here is explaining or is asking a question. So just give it a second, and I'll repeat the question.
Yeah. So, so when I finish, the first thing I don't want them to start the chanting before opening the curtain, in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
Because I have to check the things.
Mm-hmm.
So I open the curtain and I'm watching, and then I go a little, small mini Mangal Arti, and then some Sabadaba after that, and then I start doing my chant, and then after I do that chanting, I do the Shishastaka.
Huh.
Shishastaka. I do that. And I find myself something not doing all the chanting for, I don't get something to get to do the Shishastaka or finish, or finish the chanting. I never accomplish what I need to do most of the time because I have to leave the house at 7 to go to work.
Yes.
So I was wondering, what is the most important thing to do? And, because it's hard for me to chant on the job sometimes.
Oh, yeah. You can't. It's difficult to chant on the job. That's for
Yeah.
sure. Well, I mean, in the morning, if you don't have time for everything, your artik and your japa and your shikshashnika prayers.
Sometimes I do, but when I'm late, it's kind of
Well, the course of those three, between the doing the arti and chanting japa and chanting the shikshashnika prayers, the three, the most important is the japa.
good job.
Yes. Yeah, if you don't have time, then better concentrate on the japa. That's our that's most important. And of course, when we get initiated, what are we promising? I will chant every day, 16 rounds a day of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra minimum, and I will follow the four regulative principles. So following the regulative principles means things we don't do. We avoid doing certain activities, and and chanting 16 rounds. We're promising to do that. So that's the primary thing that we have to make sure that is done in the morning, or at least daily, but morning is best.
So the most important is get the chanting done.
Yes, concentrate on your chanting. If you have time for other things, or maybe you're not working, maybe you have a day off and you can do everything. But the most important thing every day is that chanting. Oh, here's a question here. If okay, question is, Hare Krishna. If one is chanting extra rounds and sometimes realizes that one is going too fast and not pronouncing all the names clearly, should one not chant so many extra rounds? Well, we should at least chant really focused on those 16 rounds, because that's what our promise is to the guru. And if our other chanting is not um, other chanting, we chant the best we can do. But at least we should make sure that we get a good 16 rounds in. If we're chanting lots and lots of rounds, and most of our rounds are kind of not really, we're not really focusing on the chanting because we're trying to chant a lot in out of extra rounds, then that's not so good. You can chant a lot of rounds, but the most important thing is that it's focusing on the chanting. In the beginning, Srila Prabhupada even encouraged devotees to chant. I mean, he was asking you to try 64 rounds, which was absolutely impossible for those who were just starting off. And then he tried 32, and then he said no, 16, and you can't reduce that. But he emphasized concentrating on those 16. So I'll say the same thing here. You concentrate on those 16 rounds, especially concentrate on the 16 rounds, and any other chanting that can be done, do the best you can do. The mind's going to wander, as I was telling Raghunandan Pran Prabhu here. The mind will wander, and you can just keep pulling it back. But especially concentrate on at least the 16 rounds. Anything else is like a bonus. Chanting Hare Krishna is always good. Does that answer the question? 16 quality rounds, yeah. At least 16 rounds should be really, really, really concentrated, and as much as you can chant other rounds, then good. I mean, I saw like that, yeah. Concentrate. The main thing is to concentrate on those 16 rounds. Okay. Any other questions? Anyone? You have any more question? Yeah.
Regarding the group pranam we have to say before we do the chant. Regarding the guru pranam that we have to say,
yes.
We have to say Srila Prabhupada pranam. Before Srila Prabhupada pranam.
Yeah, yes, just like the question is, do we need to chant? It's a question that do we need to chant Srila Prabhupada's pranam mantra also?
Right.
Usually, for those who are initiated by disciples of Srila Prabhupada, I mean, which is most everyone these days.
In my case, I'm by two disciples of Srila Prabhupada.
Well, okay. Yes. So
do I need to have to go for
I would. It's kind of a special case. Chanting, you've got two gurus.
So I don't have a pranam. I have a pranam for what you give me for after the passing away of Srila Bhakti Swami. But then I kids for Shaka Sandas, I just say God gives the Pada and then I say Shaka Sandas Adhikari.
Yes, you can ask someone who's actually.
I just forgot something that
yeah. I'm sure there's a specific one, and that's probably what it is. Say just like Srila Prabhupada, but changing the name. The first mantra that we chant for Srila Prabhupada, but changing the name. But better to ask someone who's actually disciple and who knows for sure.
Right.
Yes.
I will find out what's the best way to do.
Yeah, that's generally the principle. You chant just like we chant Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Janamani. So for other gurus in ISKCON, it would be like Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Shrimate, and then their name. Yeah, that's generally how it's done. but better to ask someone who's actually a disciple and who knows for sure how that particular guru is asking to be done.
Yeah. What's your pranam or this pranam? But I have the one for Srila Bhakti Sarvaswami.
Yes, so you can definitely chant that one,
Yeah.
and that's for your first
My
initiation.
one sister said it for me.
Yes.
He said,
So it's already 8:21, so we're kind of going longer. This was actually a long topic today, very important topic. This is just the first topic of the sadhana bhakti. It was about japa, which I think is just the most important. So we'll plan next week, next Wednesday, we'll continue. That'll be number 7. And then the 8th one, I'm not sure how it's going to happen because the actual day is the same day as Lord Balaram's appearance day, so we can't do it on that day. And the next day will probably be kind of crazy too, being the day after a festival. And then a week later is Janmashtami. So we'll see what happens with the final class, class number 8. But at least next week, at this point, I'm planning Wednesday. We'll do the next section, and then we'll see what happens with the 8th one. Okay, so I think we'll end here. Thank you, everyone present and online who have come tonight. Hare Krishna.